Congratulations, you're finally getting the future you always dreamed of. And that future includes a place to keep your spice. Updates on PORG fishing in Galaxy's Edge. A week later, I understand why the Fantasyland Theater has gone dark. And Paradise Pier hotel guests are no longer third-class citizens. Tarzan's treehouse is down, and it's easier to go from one land to the next.
Greetings, fellow citizens of Disneyland. Brickey here. It's that time again to walk all around the resort and find everything new, and found out something new about this building as Spider-Man took a crash into it.
Friends, it's my favorite time of the week. Time to take a lap around the Disneyland Resort and find everything new. I'm so excited that you decided to join me.
Here goes something.
Is not equipped with airbags.
Beyond a doubt, the biggest story of the week is Spider-Man taking a crash at an Avengers campus. Let's break this down and see what we can learn from an accident that it seems that Disney Imagineering at some point had anticipated. Watching the stunt show happen correctly, you see that the flying Spider-Man is detached from the rappel line. Now going over to the footage on Instagram, you'll see that when Spider-Man takes off, that rappel line never detaches. Therefore, the true momentum that Spidey needs to do a stunt show never happens. You can also see how much more lifelike the Stuntronic is when it has the full momentum. The misfire on Instagram, you see that the body of the Stuntronic always stays very stiff like a board the entire time, never fully engaging into the stunt show. So maybe when the rappel lets loose, that's when the robot fully engages, but somewhere something went wrong and the trajectory of Spidey was way off.
Friends, let's take a deep dive into the design of this building and what possibly went wrong with this Spider-Man flight and how this building was designed to save not only Spider-Man, but everybody else. Right in front of our eyes, this building was always designed to be a shock absorbent for the Spider-Man animatronic. When Spider-Man crashed into that panel, within hours they were able to reconstruct that panel, meaning that this building is designed to be a breakaway or to break his fall. So essentially, think about it, that metal piece there is a giant pad that Spider-Man, if things go wrong, can fly into, therefore breaking his momentum and not having a stray Spider-Man fly over into the performance corridor where a guest of Disneyland could possibly be injured. I'm so amazed when good problem solving exists right in front of us and we have no idea what its application is until that application has to be used. Good on you, Imagineer, who designed to make this building a way to catch the flying Spider-Man animatronic, which I can only assume weighs a massive amount. I'm so excited. I always love when I get to learn a little something new about the place that I come to all the time.
Let's hop over to the Plazza Point, or as I like to call it, the holiday shop killer, and see what they have for the summer season. I love this America wreath. Still has Christmas lights in it, Christmas tree adjacent, and the holiday kids, all decked out in their red, white, and blue. Salutes to you. Oh, I love those holiday kids, and over on the area of the wall where they always change according to the season, you can see that American bunting and all the various different decorations they have. Now, none of this stuff I think is for sale. This is just the part of the shop that they change seasonally. And I always like to pop in here and to see how they react to the seasons. If I'm gonna lose my Christmas shop for this, I better get a show all year long. Plazza Point replaced my favorite store inside of the Disneyland Resort, so I'm always gonna look at it with a judgeful eye. Congratulations, Mickey. So you're probably wondering, what about the sheet wall, Brickey, that we saw back in May? Well, I got news for you, friends. The sheet wall is still there. Somehow the most curious divisional line I've ever seen in the history of Disney construction or refabrication. The sheet wall is still there, blocking out the hallway that joins the two spaces. I'm going to predict massive Christmas in July is what they're setting up right now. Please let it be true, and all will be forgiven. Speaking of all being forgiven, friends, there's a new Tomorrowland coming each and every one of our ways. And this is going to be it. The promise of a new Tomorrowland, a better future, and better flower beds. Are you ready for some better flower beds? Yeah, I know you are, and it's getting ready to happen. After being promised this for so long, the future of flowers will finally be here. Flanking each side of Tomorrowland, you will be greeted with the future of flowers. A better tomorrow, a more peaceful tomorrow, and dare I say, one that smells a little bit better. So Mickey's getting ready to bring to you the future.
Friends, could it really be happening? Could there really be progress coming to Tomorrowland? Could you keep that parade down? Look at that. The magic stack on top of the magic, and soon, where there's mulch, where we have the Tomorrowland we've been dreaming of, or at least the flower beds that we've been dreaming of.
You know what they say, the tomorrow is only a flower away. So I didn't get to find Miss Marvel, but I did find this. When the monorail just goes into my shot, it always makes me excited. Miss Marvel debuted Wednesday over on Disney Plus. You can also find her hanging out doing character meet and greets inside of Avengers Campus. I didn't find her, but what I did find is there's more activity happening outside of the Hyperion Theater. This is the current state. This is where the seating stops. When we go back to June 2nd, there seemed to be a private event. I think there was a media event happening, so they had it all bushed out so you couldn't see what was happening inside of the Hyperion Theater seating area. So it's no big deal, they're having a special event. But when we return to this week, all of this open space just sitting there, not being used. So maybe the theater is going to come back online, but until it does, I wish they would use that for seating, because the spaces that they are using for seating seem to make little to no sense to me, making Avengers Campus very congested unnecessarily. All right, so a lot of you told me that last week there was no mystery here. Hey, stupid Brickey, they're just working on the concrete. Doesn't seem like a mystery to me. Well, friends, I tried to explore that this week and see, did I miss that they were working on the concrete? If you look at the concrete here, there is no visual difference between that and the barrier. So I'm thinking that this area is probably open because they're going to work on a canopy or something to provide shade. And no, I'm going to throw shade at everybody that said it was concrete work. You're wrong, and you owe me a shawarma. But moving back over to seating, you can see this has become an unnecessary pinch point because they added these seats last week on the outside of Pym Test Kitchen. And sometimes, as I predicted last week, when Guardians of the Galaxy has an overrun of people, you get this mess. People sitting on the left, people standing in line on the right, and everyone confused down the middle. That's why I'm so confused why this seating is gone and areas over in the Hyperion Theater, because they're junking up Avengers Campus with unnecessary clusters of people everywhere. So I've heard so many of you complain that Star Wars Galaxy's Edge has nothing for kids. It's just shops and attractions that don't skew to the younger citizens of Disneyland. Well, to you, I'll say this. Have you brought your kids to do a little bit of PORG fishing? PORG fishing is one of the ancient traditions of Batuu. It goes back to the beginning, before the spires even were carved by the ancients. Children love PORG fishing. See them bopping and jumping around, trying to catch the precious flesh of a porg being dangled by one of the locals of Batuu. This is a tradition that goes back to the ancients and one that I love.
A lot of people have no idea that I actually possess the high score in catch the porg. Humble brag, but none of these kids can keep up with my high score.
Moving over to Dock Ondoors, I saw some items that I thought were pretty interesting. This bounding outfit that would make you look like you're Jedi adjacent. What would it cost to look so suave inside of the Galaxy's Edge? Well, for starters, for $99, we could get this puffy zip-up vest that also has this underlayer that you can see is ribbed on the sleeves, kind of a canvasy material there, but Patagonia for a Padawan on the outside. Then they have this leather-like duster that would go on the outside of cloak that kind of makes you somewhere between Jedi and the Undertaker. It's $150. So $250 for these items, $50 for the belt, and you got to get your own boots and pants and boots and pants. And don't forget that lightsaber. For much cheaper, there's this awesome Darth Vader sculpt that's $19.99. It's very, very heavy. It's rusted and decayed, and it's everything I like about Vader. It looks vicious, it looks dark, and well designed. If you're like my friend Drape and you like hitting the spice, congratulations, there's new spice containers that rolled into Batuu. You can see here is a PORG one that you can put your spice in there if you'd like to celebrate the PORG. And if you've been breaking it bad with that new blue spice that just rolled into the Black Spire Outpost, this one will be the perfect spice container for you. But maybe you're addicted to treats, and I got good news. They have updated the mobile ordering blue screen. You can easily see what window you're supposed to go to, and the cast member can easily see your order number. Small little change, but such a big one. This graphic interface is a win for everyone. And efficiency. It's been a week, so certainly the Tale of the Lion King is back, and finally I can get inside of the Fantasyland Theater. Well, no.
Now, last week when I walked through here, I was informed that I could not film the stage, and there was no showtime. But that landed on the exact same day, later on that same day, I should say, Disneyland announced, or the OC Register announced, that several members of the cast of The Tale of the Lion King had come down with COVID. Totally reasonable, totally respect that. Coming here last week, it was very confusing on what's going on. You've been talking about this show forever, and there was no sign out front, really nothing to indicate that this thing wasn't happening. And I was confused because I wasn't allowed to film the stage. But today, there's no cast members here, there's no cast members anywhere, and in an even more interesting turn of events, Troubadour Treats, which was open last week, is now closed. So Disney quietly just putting this whole back in the Fantasyland to rest, which means I still haven't gotten to enjoy anything inside of the Fantasyland Theater since Disneyland reopened on Friday, April 30th, 2021. One of these days I'll get in here. One of these days I'll get to see the show. But hey, let's film the stage because we can today and see what we can see from the cheap seats.
And a week later, the story makes so much more sense, and I understand. It just was very confusing when I was there last week, just being told I couldn't film and there was no show and no signs. But let's look. A couple of weeks ago, this is what we were able to see. Them slowly start to put the stage together, and one duck already waiting. He doesn't know there's no ducks in the program, and I didn't have the heart to tell him. But you can see that there's this interesting design that they have on each side of the stage. Moving up to this week's footage, where there's these sort of simplified silhouettes of the animals, but then inside of them, there's a lot of patterns that are going on. That blue curtain, I'm assuming, is covering out the big tree that sits in the middle. But going back weeks, we slowly saw these little corner clusters come together where there's a mixture of music props and these different animals. But we saw this gentleman painting the tree just days up before the opening. So Disney was definitely racing to get this open by Memorial Day weekend, and it is such a shame that it is already closed, not even making it one full week into production. I want to give my best wishes to the cast, and I hope everybody has a speedy recovery. I can't wait to see you all. Mater's Junkyard Jamboree will be going down for an odd summertime refurbishment, closing June 13th and reopening by June 17th. It's very odd to see attractions go down in the middle of the summer season. They typically do this around the beginning of the year, but I have to say, this is a ride that I rode off for years, and it's actually a lot of fun. I had so much fun the time that I did it. And I love this sign. Look at the patina worn in there to perfectly make it look like it's something authentically from Route 66. All of the sign work inside of this land is fantastic. And Radiator Racers are back to racing. And you'll see there's a 100-minute wait to celebrate its return. Now, last week when this wasn't there, it really took out so much of the life on the back end of Route 66. But luckily, it's back, and we're back to racing inside the most beautiful attraction inside of Disney's California Adventure, and dare I say, the best attraction inside the park. Absolutely love it. And if you're in from out of town, that 100-minute wait makes it tempting to pull the tab on that pay-per attraction on the Lightning Lane. Oh, they got us. All right, let's step over to the PIXAR Pier Hotel. I'm going to just call it that from now on, and I'm no longer apologizing. Finally, residents of the PIXAR Pier Hotel have their own entry point inside of DCA, coming over to, guess where? The PIXAR Pier. What a crazy idea. We've been watching this construction happen for quite some time now. You do have to cross the street, but once you do, you have your own proprietary path to get you inside of DCA over at the PIXAR Pier. This, I think, is going to make this hotel such a more attractive option for guests that want to come out to the Disneyland Resort, but not this summer because there's going to be a lot of construction. As we can see, going back to May 19th, this was the week that they announced, hey, we're finally going to convert this thing over and make it match the pier that it's adjacent to. And if you look on the front of the building, you'll see that there's these suns that match the old former Sun Wheel, which was replaced by Mickey's Fun Wheel. You can see that those were taken down because the Pixar balls are coming soon. And by the way, I'll call it the PIXAR Pal Around when you call this the PIXAR Pier Hotel. You want to make a deal with me? But you can see that the suns have been taken down. These are the lighting fixtures that lived behind those so they could illuminate light from behind it, casting a shadow. And these will be replaced by the PIXAR ball. I believe the ball will be flat so that it'll have the exact same shape. In fact, I think they're taking down those suns and actually repainting them to look like the ball. Over in the parking lot, you can see there's a lot of equipment that is staging. This, I believe, has something to do with the DVC tower that's going up, the preview center for it. But there's a lot of heavy equipment that's living over here, which is kind of far from all the other construction, as well as a lot of materials and supplies. So we'll be keeping our eye on this, as we do every week, as we check out all the different construction projects happening at the Disneyland Resort. Okay. Let's move over and look at the monorail. You can see last week there was some equipment out there, but now that's been moved elsewhere and it's just back to being dirt with a couple of different holes. That's going really slow. I've been informed that maybe there's a concrete shortage, that they just don't have the supply to get the next phase going, but it has definitely come to a standstill. But the DVC tower is going very, very fast. You can see all of that various rebar that will soon be poured with concrete to make it higher. And when we come over to the side next to Goofy's kitchen, you can see that the little decks have been starting to take shape on the front of the building. But as well, as I looked around, I could see that there's some growth on the back side going over to Walnut. This area here will overlook the DVC members only pools that will live beneath these towers. So it's definitely kind of going left, right, north, south, east, west. Like, this thing is going very, very fast. And I'm fascinated to see, we're probably, I'm going to think, a week or so away, depending if there's no materials that they're running slow on, to go higher than the monorail slide. And when it first started, it was just a pile of dirt. To see it actually go higher than the monorail slide in such a quick amount of time, pretty fascinating. Friends, this was just dirt at the beginning of the year, and it's coming together at a rapid pace. So this is probably the biggest construction project that's happening right now. I know it's not the most exciting because DVC may not apply to you, but I love the Sim City nature of the park, and it's so fun to see it every week. Are you ready to ride Pirates? Well, too bad, it's still closed. But expected to open in the month of July. Let's look at this interesting little problem solving that Disney did. So here you see one of the walls up as they're working on all the different walkways in New Orleans Square. Okay, so this is totally boarded up. Now you can see that the concrete has been laid in that little patch in there. But what I love about this is the dedication to making all of this happen efficiently. Because last week they had boards in there that they painted gray to match everything else, and this was just a temporary solution to this pave job. So they actually went out of their way, put down boards, painted them just to fill in a week or so time before they could get this pavement going. I love that kind of problem solving. The Blue Bayou is back open. It's fun to see guests coming and going. And soon, my friends, soon we'll be coming down this ramp after just going, ugh, I can't believe I just touched the spongy wood gate that you have to touch when you get off of Pirates. Weirdest thing in the entire park. Going back to May 19th, this was all boarded up, so seeing the exit open and Blue Bayou open means that this is all getting a little bit closer. And speaking of getting closer, when we look over the bridge down into the entryway of Pirates, you can see that there is fresh concrete that's been laid. This has been nothing but dirt for quite some time, so seeing two different levels of concrete and textures in there means that the walkway is getting closer and closer, making that July opening seem very, very realistic. You want to be a part of Brickey's sidewalk gang, eh? Because I come every week, I'm always able to catch some of these construction projects in various different states. This is what Tarzan's treehouse looked like before they took it down when they had to pull the scrims off due to high winds. So you get to see just how much scaffolding was there and how big of an intrusion this was when the entire treehouse stood. Now, going back, you can see that they slowly dismantled it, slowly pulled it apart to where it was just getting down to doing the concrete. Well, as I'm sure you know because you're hardcore, that concrete has been poured, and I have good news, it is finally completely open. And this might be one of the very few times that I celebrate something being removed, just because it was such a hard thing to navigate through. This is footage I shot yesterday. You can see everybody easily making a decision, left or right, down or up, flowing through effortlessly. But when we look at historical footage, you can see how it just pushed everybody to a visual dead end. And even though it hid New Orleans Square, it did make people sort of freeze in their brain to try to make a decision. And if everybody stops for a couple of seconds to process and you see people here like looping around, it just caused chaos. Yesterday, I sat back and I just watched people easily decide left or right, up or down, and they just did it seamlessly. And even when somebody stopped in the middle, because who doesn't like stopping in the middle, it didn't mess it up for everybody else because there was easily space to just go around those citizens that were for some reason stuck in a moment of thought. You know, I have something I want to think about and I don't feel like stepping over to the side. You know what? I'm just going to figure it out right here in the center and everyone can go around me. And now they can, because no longer is this in the center making people decide. So let's take a last couple of steps up on the old Tarzan treehouse And remember what these views look like. On the first landing, you could get a modest view down into Adventureland and over to the rivers of America. But if you go back up the next platform, you could look over and see the old trees that are no longer there in New Orleans Square. And what I miss the most about the treehouse being gone is all of this beautiful rock work and the water that flows through there. The sound of that water when you're walking through is so mesmerizing, the kinetic energy of Adventureland. But this view, we'll only be able to see this now a little bit over to the right, and unfortunately when we spin around, that view of New Orleans Square, we'll only be able to see it over on the treehouse. So actually being out over the walkway and getting that view, that's something that we're going to lose. But the idea of being able to easily navigate through, you walk through here way more than you ever stand up here. So it's one of the rare times that I'll let it pass that we're losing something just because it did create such a bottleneck of traffic flow. So are you ready to see the new theme? Are you ready to see what you got? Are you ready to see the future of Adventureland? Well, here it is. There's the Encanto tree. I don't know how we're all going to get on there, but yeah, there it is. The Encanto tree. So excited to see it. And look at this people flow. People can easily navigate and do what Walt Disney always dreamed they would. Just take a nap. If you get tired, just take a nap on the sidewalk. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Go away, Snow White Prince. He's not looking to be revived. Go on you. Man, you take a nap at Disneyland and that guy always tries to kiss you to wake you up. What a creep.